Hello, folks. Welcome again to another edition of the Mind of Magnus. As always, doing our recordings from the High Falls area here in Rochester, New York, the home of spirituality. All the Fox sisters doing their zany things and a zillion religions that have come through and caused this place to have the nickname the Burned Over District. So I am decided to bring on a guy who will appreciate all these random things that happen in Rochester, New York, even down to the Kodak building being down the road from me here. I have always loved the weird, the kind of chaos, the crazy, weird, bizarre stuff that has happened in our lives, stories and legends. And that is why I have the guest tonight is one of the hosts of Astonishing Legends. So if you guys are a fan of Mysteries of the Unknown, you're going to love listening to this man talk with me tonight. So Scott Philbrook, I'm going to bring you in because I want to ramble right away. But Scott Philbrook, thanks for joining me.
Hi, thank you very much. See, what if you did that big introduction for me, and then I had a horrible voice? It's not great, by the way, but it's better than me going, thank you very much. I'm so glad to be here.
Although, it'd be like, oh, he actually uses AI. Actually, we didn't tell this. It's actually to let people know the right. Voice is actually done all by robot. It's actually Forrest and an AI. That's how it works. So,
yes.
Although I guess
yes, and Forrest, my co-host, has a not so.
Oh my God, yeah. That's how it works though. But
yeah, that's how it works.
But you have a unique voice, which is one of the things that I think really sells the show. Like you guys, I've listened to shows sometimes where two people have amazing voices that are similar.
Yes, can't tell them apart.
Oh my God. And I had a guest that was on once, name was a photographer, and his wife messaged us live on the show being, I love the show, but who's talking right now? And I was like, oh my God, we do have the same voice. So it's a jarring thing. But yeah, so Astonishing Legends is a wonderful podcast that I have been listening to for a decade now. When did Astonishing Legends get started?
We will thank you for listening that long, by the way. And that's just one episode. Astonishing Legends got started this October. It'll be 11 years ago. And although we started talking about it 2 years before we did anything, and in fact, it might never have launched if Forrest and I were out on the porch of my house in LA. Having drinks and, trying to come up with the right name, mover and shaker in Hollywood and stuff like that. And she just came on the porch and she's like, are you guys ever going to do this? Or are you just going to sit out here and drink and talk about it forever? And I was like, I resemble that remark. So we we had it up and running within 3 months of that. So, but that was 11 years ago almost. Yeah.
Oh my God. Kudos to your wife. That is awesome. Like sometimes it just takes you to just do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just do it. Stop talking about it. Stop. And Forrest and I both suffer a little bit from people overdiagnose and overuse the term OCD, but there was a little bit of us being perfectionists and just being like, we don't want to launch until we have the best mic and the best logo and the best name and the format figured out. And we don't want to sound clumsy, but it's like, no matter what you do, the pilot of anything is always sloppy. And my wife is, like I said, she worked in television. It's the same thing. You could put all this work into it, but if you look at the pilot for The Simpsons and look at what it became, it's night and day. So
oh my God, yeah. So. I actually don't have the first handful of seasons up on my show. Like, I mean, it existed in other stuff, but the 9 seasons you have now are where it starts hitting the ground running. It's really, really solid.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. So I will say, actually, to those listening in, you may think we're having some awesome Foley sound effects added for ambiance, but there is a thunderstorm happening in Rochester, New York right now, just for the dramatic effect. I want to have Astonishing Legends. So we had some weather control devices started here to get some thunderstorms happening.
Yeah, we're seeding the clouds.
Yeah, exactly. So if it does happen that way, also, if somehow audio cuts out, it may be due to that or ghosts. We're not quite sure.
Yes.
So I actually wouldn't mind hearing a little bit about the story of Scott Philbrook. Like you said, you're a California guy originally.
Yes. Well, yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Roundabout way. I was born in California, but when I was 2, my parents, they divorced, but they also moved, both of them, to Denver. Mm-hmm. And my mom had custody, but we were all in Denver so I could see my dad, and from, I guess it was 5th grade or all the way through college. And I went to my first 2 years of college at NC State University in Raleigh, and then I transferred to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, where I met my wife. And then she and I, when she graduated, she got into the master's program at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, and she wanted to go out there and pursue a degree in that. And also she had always had her eyes on the prize with joining the Groundlings Improv Theater, which
Mhm.
is like Second City. It's the LA version of that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so it's like, let's move out there. And I wanted to work in the film business. And so we went out together. And from that point forward, she pursued her career path and I pursued mine, and wound up becoming an editor of film and stuff like that, and making sure that nothing got lost from these very expensive commercial shoots. And then eventually I became an assistant editor, and then I was an editor. I did that almost 17 years. And when our son was born, my wife was working fairly often in television and doing fairly well. And we were spending a lot on childcare, and I wanted to hang out with him. So I stopped working for 4 years and raised him. And it evened out with income versus expenses, and
Exactly.
gave me a chance to be with him. And then when he went to preschool and I needed to go back to work, I did not want to go back to television commercials because I was over advertising. I didn't want to do that anymore. And that's when Forrest and I started the podcast. That's the whole thing in a nutshell.
I imagine you've answered the question before. That was pretty efficient.
Yes, I have answered it before, and I'm sensitive to blabbing.
I'm going to pause 1 second. You are dropping and having some audio issues, and I don't know if it's going to translate into there as well.
Does this app record locally?
It's supposed to.
Do you want me to do a backup local recording?
Yeah, would you mind? Is that able to do? Yeah, because I hate to have it lost. I enjoy listening to you. Like, this is what we're, when we ramble this way, I pause. I have my little timestamp here to write stuff down. So if you want to do that and stuff, because I mean, you know how the internet works. My opening actually going to talk about how, like, we have such a Venn diagram of people and friends, and weirdly how I was listening to you and suddenly I realized that, like, a zillion different people I know either know you've worked with you or talked with you, have been, whatever it is.
Oh,
so,
right.
Yeah. So I've been looking forward to this just because of how the internet works. Being like a guy I feel like I know is someone I get a chance to chat with really one of the first or second times really so.
Okay, I am just real quick. I'm on camera and I'm launching because I only have so many ports. But I'm launching my Pro Tools, and I'm going to start recording here in a second.
I'm trying to see. I've never actually had a problem with this. This is aside from the one time, actually it was Kenny Biddle. We had one time at the end of we had like ramble for a while. It was long and it started losing like compression problems. I don't know what, I think it was on my machine on my end, but
if you're having thunderstorms, that could be contributing to it too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It could be. That's what reason I started off saying like could be a thunderstorm or ghost. So we'll see how it goes. I appreciate it though.
Let me just get my find my folder where I save these things real quick. Stand by. Let's see.
I'm trying to see. Show now. Audio.
All right, just make it.
I don't know. Oh no, I can hear you fine. Yeah, I appreciate. I sincerely appreciate you doing this because I'll go back and re-edit and everything else. So
okay, I'm going to let me set up a new track here, and also I can restate anything that didn't work out if you want me to.
It's fine. We'll see how this audio records. It's been pretty good about sharing streams because I had one time.
Test 1 2 test. Okay. We're at 8 minutes and 50 seconds into Restream, and I just started a Pro Tools recording. Okay. All right. So now I'm recording locally. So even if it cuts out or messes up, or if Restream does, you'll have a continuous file on my end.
Thank you. Oh my God. Yeah. Because I can always go back over. I've actually re-edited. I mean, you know how audio works. I've had a couple of times where I go back in and redo the question on my. You've done plenty of audio editing and video editing and stuff.
Yes,
so,
yes, all good. We're rolling now. So should I back up? Did you lose anything? Because I can't.
I can't think of the last thing we were talking about.
You were talking about. I just said I think the last thing is we talked about. I told the story kind of quickly, and then I was talking about the places we had lived. So I can jump back in there.
Actually, cool? Jump back in there. Yeah, good.
Okay. So yeah, and the last thing I'll say is in the course of all that, we it was fun because my wife and I met in North Carolina. Then we moved to Los Angeles, and there was, by the way, we always talk about this. There was always in it very closely adjacent or us participating in a global event everywhere we went. So in LA, we moved there like just a few weeks or maybe a month after the Rodney King riots. That's when we moved to LA, and then the time that we lived there, we got to experience the Northridge earthquake and the fires, which happened, but there was a really bad fire prior to that. Not as bad as Palisades, but pretty significant, where we sat on the hill at Loyola Marymount University and watched Malibu burn down in the valley, which was insane. And then we moved. She got hired to do her dream job, which was to be a writer at Saturday Night Live, which has been a goal for her since she was 9 years old. And we had got that all lined up, and we were leaving LA, packing up and moving to New York. And 9/11 happened. So we moved to Manhattan 5 days after 9/11.
Whew.
And then we lived there. She did well on the show. She wrote for the team that included Maya Rudolph, Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, that whole Horatio Sands was there, Jason Sudeikis.
What a lineup. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Will Forte. So her and Maya were very close because they started in the Groundlings together. They're like sisters. So that's Maya got over there. And then after her first season, Maya was to Lauren with Spivey. So that was all. And then we moved there. It was already in motion. I had quit my job and everything. So we went there, and then we were in New York City for 9 years or so. And then she was ready to leave SNL. She was kind of tired. It's exhausting. And she and Amy Poehler had already left and was working on Parks and Rec. And she asked my wife to come back to LA and work on Parks and Rec.
Another amazing show. Wow.
Yeah. So we went back to, thank you. And so not that I had anything to do with it, but so then we went back to LA. The day that I left New York City was the day the guy tried to blow up the bomb in Times Square in the back of the van. That didn't work.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. Things always happening. And then we got back to LA, and I had left my job, and we'd rented this expensive furnished house because we were like, oh, she's working on this big show. And NBC, at not more than a few days later, shelved Parks and Rec indefinitely. And so then my wife was like, worked there for 10 years before. And as an editor of TV commercials, I had clients. My clients were ad agencies. And then I worked for these facilities. So I was a known name, but I'd been gone almost a decade. So all my stuff had kind of dried up. And so I had to kind of start that over. And my wife was like, I need to develop a show. Her agent was like, develop a show. Well, if we can at least sell the concept. And so she did. And that sold. And it was a show called Up All Night, which was loosely based on us with Will Arnett and Christina Applegate.
Yeah. Oh my God. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that ran for 2 years, but she was green to running a show, and she wasn't well protected, not to get into Hollywood politics. And so it sort of got run into the ground. She kept getting sidelined, in spite of the fact that she was the creative force that was making it work. So the more sidelined she got, the worse the show got, and it got canceled after 2 years. So that was a horrible experience for her, but this isn't about her. It's about us, I guess.
I mean, I know it's about it being a supportive partner for everything. I mean, like how she spurred you to start your show. Like
right.
She is not by herself. They're having a supportive member at home with kids.
Right.
Out. Like,
yes.
It's still part of you in the story. So
yeah. So we were a team. We are very much a team and still a team. But and then after that, she got what's called an overall deal, which is very hard to get. She had one for a couple of years with Fox, I think. I can't remember who it was with now, but they're lucrative, but they kind of suck because they just make you do all kinds of stuff. You don't get to choose where you want to go. They're like, if they have a TV show that isn't working, they force you to go over there and work on it. And you might be working with people you don't like, et cetera. So she did that for a little bit. During that time, I was like, I'm working a little bit, but not making enough. And I think I'm going to try to get into podcasting. So then that's when I started talking to Forrest, or we started talking to each other. I don't remember. Neither one of us remembers who had the idea first, but we were like, we can pull this off technically because we both had experience in post-production. So
now did you how did you meet Forrest? What was the connections?
When the first time that I had been in LA and I was working in the post-production community in television commercials and music videos and high budget stuff, my bosses were, in fact, they used to be in-house editors at a company called Propaganda Films. And Propaganda was the bomb in the day when it started. It was founded by David Fincher, Michael Bay, Dominic Sena, and God, I can't remember what the other ones. Just a period, and
Yeah,
they were
holy
doing.
cow.
Yeah, and this was before any of them had any features. So they're doing these $1 million commercials for the Super Bowl, and I worked on a commercial. I was an assistant editor, not the editor, but where the horses played football.
I remember. Yeah, the Budweiser ones. Yeah.
Stan Winston.
Wow.
Did the anime, the dog, or not the dog, negative done for the special effects. That's another story. I'm surprised I didn't get fired, but and also about $100,000 was spent removing certain appendages that horses have, because there was a lot of shots under the horses, and they were like, we can't do that in the Super Bowl or anywhere really. So I spent probably a month removing horse dongs. So anyway, but that's another story. So anyway, yeah. So I worked on the commercials with these guys. The guys who had started the company I worked at was called Superior Assembly. They were ex-tape room guys from Propaganda Films. So they got all the propaganda jobs, but now they were at their own company, and that's where I started out. And my bosses worked with Fincher a ton. I did all these Heineken commercials with David, and it was amazing. It was amazing. So it was an exciting time. And then when Emily got hired to Saturday Night Live, I had pulled the plug on all that. But during the course of that, getting back to your question, it's a small community of post-production people. And a very good friend of mine was an editor at another company called Mad River Post, and he and Forrest knew each other. And so we were doing a lot of hanging out and partying together and all that stuff. And I just met Forrest. He was in that Venn diagram of a group of friends all involved in post-production at that time. So
now, was there so your show, Astonishing Legends, very much an amazing show, has such quirky pulls and legends and stuff that way. Were you a person at this point in time that would talk about, I mean, are you a mysteries of the unknown sort of guy that you're like, bring up weird topics? Cause I you start looking at Forrest being like, hey, I see this guy's got a interesting taste of the weird on there. How's this happen?
Kind of sums it up. I was always interested. I wasn't obsessive about it, but I was very much interested in it. I was a little bit more skewed towards the mysteries of the universe and theoretical physics and things like that. But I've always thought that was maybe part of the underlying root of the paranormal, and I still think that to this day.
Okay.
But what would happen is at some of these parties that we would go to, backyard barbecues and stuff like that, is sooner or later I would cross paths with Forrest. And somehow we would mention something, and the next thing you know, he was spouting off about really esoteric, strange, and unusual things that I hadn't heard about. Fakirs making, pictures disappear off people's office walls and stuff. And I was like, yeah, this guy is like really a repository of weird crap. And I was like, and he's got a great voice. I was thinking about that too. And I was like, and somehow that evolved into us like, let's give this a shot. Because we got to a point where we were going to bars in LA. Sometimes people would come over and get involved, and we were like, maybe this can work. So that is really how that all got started.
Now, hanging out with him, do you feel that your like threshold for the credible has like changed since the first few episodes and hanging out for 10 years? I mean, do you feel that there's been like you said, you mentioned the idea that the physics, quantum physics, there's an underlying something there, but do you feel that the Scott Philbrook from 10 years ago to the Scott Philbrook now is a core change into with credibility? Or beliefs. I mean, not you, but beliefs.
Yeah. You mean in terms of like what I will and won't believe?
Yes,
absolutely. I think, I've said this before, but like when we started out and it was, if it was a Scully and Mulder situation, I was probably Scully. But we had an experience and, there's people, we talk about it so much that people actually was the Sally House, which was an investigation we did. It was happenstance that we covered it. It's a haunted house in Atchison, Kansas. We were in Atchison to talk about Amelia Earhart and her disappearance on a panel. And that house just happens to be there. It just happens to be a few blocks from where she grew up, weirdly. So we were there for that, and we did an investigation in that house. And long story short, we got an EVP on a digital recorder that changed my worldview. And so, and it was frightening. And it's still, I've only listened to it maybe 15 times. And sorry, I got a house full of people if you hear folks outside.
Oh, no, don't worry about it. Keep going.
So we'll just say there's a lot of more detail to it, and I don't need to revisit the whole thing here, but we had a digital recorder, and we left it in a room unattended and left it on. And I went back to pick it up expecting nothing. And what we got was what is sometimes referred to as spam. And so there's all this debate about, it's about how poorly the recorder is made and how low the sample rate and all this. We went through all of that. It's radio interference. We explored all of that. None of it's true. We sent it to an internationally recognized audio forensics guy, and he was like, I can't reproduce this in my lab. We went the whole 9 yards, and everybody was like, no, we don't know what that is. And but on top of that, when I played it back, it was really violent and aggressive, and it seemed pointed towards me. So that changed a lot of things for me, because I had gone into the Sally house thinking it had been featured on an episode of Sightings, which is an old TV show a long time ago. And I believed that story was a haunting. It was very spooky for the people that lived there and all of that stuff, the Pickman family. Some stuff happened right on camera while they were there. So the man of the house had had a scratch appear on him with his shirt off on camera. So I was like, there's definitely stuff that happened here, but we were there 10, 15 years later. Oh, something's still going on here. And this is what you get for coming in here and not taking it seriously. So that was the whole thing. So when I got out of there, I was like, okay, now I'm like, I sort of believed in haunted houses before and EVPs and all that, just changed everything for me. And additionally, I had issues that were going on for 6 to 9 months afterwards. Like a lot of really bizarre stuff happened to me, even after I got back to LA.
That's amazing. Actually, one of the audio, listeners have a question asking if something's ever followed you.
Yes.
Yeah, actually. And those who are curious, I'll put a link in the show notes for the Astonishing Legends, the Sally House episodes. So you can it's worth a listen. It is clearly listening to you react to it shows how sincerely this had affected you.
It was unpleasant. And for people who don't want to dive into that multi-part series, which is a serious commitment, it's called File 10. It's also just that file. I don't listen to it, but some people do. Bad things have happened to people listening to it. They've been in car accidents, all kinds of weird stuff. So it's like we have
noted.
of reactions to it. Yeah. So
well, okay. Disclaimer.
Yes,
listen at your own.
It seems to have some kind of meta. I don't want to say data, but some kind of meta stuff in it, because there's also been an indication that different people hear different things when they play it.
Now, so I'm just going to have this. I'm going to just have a conversation with you. I have a zillion questions, and I'm probably going to hit them all here, probably.
Yeah,
but so now you have this. Does that lean into? Are you nervous now that when you're sharing these stories, you can have this ripple effect in the world? I mean, like if you said like you have a list of people doing stuff now like that. Is this a concern when you're doing shows now? Like, are you going to share something that possibly could have an effect out there?
Well, I definitely have stepped back a little bit from investigations. I like to report on things. I always joke about the Bette Midler song, which I think originally was From a Distance. That's how I like to cover. If something's intense, I don't necessarily need to be right next to it or up in it. But Forrest has done several paranormal lockdowns, and you could talk me into it at the right places where the stories aren't horrific. I would do Waverly or something like that, which he's done a couple of times. But I'm not trying to play around with the Sally house. I don't know if you were heard, and maybe it's completely unrelated, but Rivera was touring with Annabelle, and he just died like a couple days ago.
That was actually on my top. Yeah.
54 years old. And it's like, whatever you think about Annabelle, it's like, I know I'm not taking that doll on a tour. And maybe it's just natural causes or something else or whatever. But a lot of times we've seen this with other paranormal investigators and people like, oh, well, as far as Forrest and I are concerned, mental health issues can be brought about by an attachment or something. A lot of people probably don't believe that, but at this point I definitely do. And I feel bad. I don't know Dan Rivera, never crossed paths with him. But, you know, and I feel bad for him and his family. It's horrible, no matter what
it's a horrible
happened.
loss, no matter what. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
but it's still, it's just like, you know, it's worrisome.
It's disconcerting. I used to work with a team, and actually I used to do audio recordings. Actually, how I met Kenny Biddle was, I used to work with a group. So I worked with a group that was it used to be an old radio show called Ghost Man and Demon Hunter. It was an online radio show stuff. One of the ghosts, the hosts of that show got a thing called Dybbuk's box. The Dybbuk's box. Have you ever read about it's and he got it. And it's supposedly, as you get it, things can happen to you. He got the box, had it in his car, and his car got struck by lightning. Like, it melted the tire, it damaged it. He's had like, it's clearly like, and I'm a skeptical man, but I also, like, you know, I'm like Mulder's poster on the wall. I want to believe, and I'm not going to test boundaries if I don't want to. But then there's stories like this where, like, proof, like, it's not just like, oh, I felt kind of weird, like, yeah, my car got struck by lightning when this was on here, my tree fell down and smashed it when it was in his house. Like, I have encountered people that truly have had like, my brother, who is very much more of a believer than I am. He's one of those guys that had to burn a Ouija board, which was mine, by the way, side note. He'd burn my Ouija board because he did a Ouija thing, and he for 2 or 3 weeks felt that something was following him, things were happening around him, and truly things were happening around him that was not like, a prime example. We were at my parents' house hanging out, and as he's walking up the stairs, all of a sudden he like there's going down the basement stairs, there's a door. He like jumps back, and the door gets popped over out of his hand, and he looks around. He's like, "There's a black cat in this house," and the neighbors had cats, something else. And we paused, looked around, no cat, couldn't find a cat, and we kept seeing random things. He would respond. I watched him respond to things that I saw, like the door popped. He wasn't swinging the door open. Something knocked the door out of his hands, you know? So over the course of my life, as skeptical as I am, I've encountered things. So, like I said, you know, I want to believe. I also don't want to have too many things come at me if I don't. You know.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. And that in the Dybbuk box, you know, I remember that in its origin story at one point, it got picked up by somebody who then brought it back because things were happening, you know, outside of that. And that's a freaky story. Haunted objects are disconcerting, and like I think in a lot of ways, I mean, and who knows, like I guess in terms of my belief in being more ready to believe that something's going on, happening, what they think the explanations are. Because over time, just a quick aside, I'm getting the messages about the cutouts, but the audio is consistent. So it's not a problem conversationally. I'm seeing it says, oops, reconnecting. It's saying that a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Cause you're definitely following up. So thanks for doing audio on your end. I appreciate it. I'm trying not to, I don't want to interrupt. I figure you're doing audio. I have faith in it. Worst case, if I have to tweak it and do some, like, I'm not going to send you the file if you want to hear first, but I always make my guests sound amazing. So somehow worse, if it cuts off, I can always redo the audio on my questions, whatever, it'll fit the audio. But I definitely seeing you vanish. And if it says it's reconnecting, it must be that happening. Because you definitely cut off a handful of times here. And on my end seems fine. I'm not quite sure either. So you said maybe someone's working outside. Maybe
it could be. I mean, those guys are gone, but I think they're gone. But the internet, you never know. Like, could be.
Yeah. So you did it right there again. You fell off. Do you hear me there?
Yeah. Well, my Pro Tools is running, so
I'm not worried.
So if you miss something and need to ask me again conversationally, just do that, and I'll repeat. Okay.
Usually I've been pretty good. Like, it has been some loss, and I'm like, I have faith that it's going to show up. You can know how to talk. You've been doing this for so long. So I just I'd be quiet on my end so I don't interrupt or cause any hiccup that way. Okay. So let me write that time stamp down real quick just to make sure. 28 minutes. But okay. Talking about haunted objects.
Go ahead.
Go. Oh yeah. So I used to work with a ghost hunting team here because I had a lot of tech, so I did a lot of like EVPs bother me in a weird way because clearly there's somewhat sound of a human voice in a space there shouldn't be anything there. So we would do these random event, and I love going into random buildings. Like the chance, like here's a key, come back in. I'll stay to the 5 a.m. I'm a night owl. I get a chance to go to a building no one can go into. Awesome. But the guy I ghost hunted with used to collect. If someone had like a haunted doll or a haunted something or other,
Yeah.
he would like, listen, you give it to me, it's fine. And we were sitting in his basement. We are partying around it. Him and I have birthdays about the same time, and we're having a blast hanging out. And he's like, oh my God, do you want to sit there, and there's $3 across the room, and we sit and put the headphones on, a little speaker, just pointing at it, and we're sitting there. It's like 2 a.m. We've been just hanging out and listening. All of a sudden I hear children talking. His house has no one children around. He doesn't have kids yet.
Okay.
I literally sitting there being like, oh, okay, there's must be something outside, but we're in a basement. It's not like and it's 2 a.m. It's not like a bird outside making sounds. And he's like, no, that one doll talks. His wife won't let it upstairs. He had it in the closet, and she kept hearing someone talking on their, like, whenever they got married. So she's nice. She keeps it in the house still, but it can't be around anywhere she was. And
yeah,
it was truly a child's voice came on there. Like, I'm skeptical. I try to take time to debunk things. I like, and not being hardcore. If someone believes something and it brings them pay, like, if it gives them happiness, like this is grandma's thing and grandma's around because of it. Awesome.
Yeah.
If you start, but when I start encountering things that my logical brain can't find a reason for, then my brain's like, and I want the wonder. I have 5 to 10% wonder in my life, makes a life better. I feel
well,
like
I'm kind of the same way, I guess. One of the things that happened, I mean, a couple of events that happened for me after the whole Sally thing that I said, when things went on for months and months, I was at an intersection where I had a conscious moment of hesitation that felt guided by a positive force. And I was sitting at a red light in LA, waiting to cross Laurel Canyon Boulevard, and a small light, not a big light, a neighborhood light, although Laurel Canyon is very busy at that point. I was on a side street, and something just told me to sit for a minute. And there was a thought in my head, literally, it was like, well, what if that thing at that house could affect you all the way here in LA? Never believe me. And then my hand just went to my emergency brake, and I pulled it up. I have an electric emergency brake in my car, and I pulled it up at the light, which I never do. And I don't even know why I did it. And then when the light turned green, I was like in some kind of trance for probably, being a former editor, my estimates of time are pretty accurate. So I'm going to say 10 seconds. And like I pushed, then as I went to go push the brake down after that 10 seconds, a car ran the light on the red going 40 miles an hour. So had I gone when I was supposed to, I would have been T-boned directly in the driver door at about 40. I would have been okay because I have an SUV, but it would have been horrible. And the person even looked at me and smiled and waved as they went through the intersection, which was weird. It was a creepy, like they looked right at me. And I couldn't tell if it was an apology for running the light or whatever.
My God.
Feeling that came over me when I put the brake, there was a voice in my head and said, are you safe here? Are you safe even though you're all the way back in LA? So that was one thing that happened. The other one I won't go into, but like it was weird. Eventually I did part ways with whatever was there. The only thing I can say is that whatever was in that house, I feel like it had an understanding of getting attention through the show. And it seemed like it wanted more people to come and more people to talk about it on the internet and all that kind of stuff. So there was, which happened. A lot of people listened to our show and went there. I friends that went and spent the night, and including I think Em and Christine and That's Why We Drink. I think they went and stayed there, and some other folks there. And I was just like, I really can't recommend it, but go do it if you want to.
If people want to experience stuff. I mean, kudos to them.
Yeah, they do. And I did up until I went in that house. I wanted to.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So to say, yeah. And we have covered Hungry Ghosts and another one called The Vertical Plane. And these two books were brought to our attention by our very dear friend, Richard Haddam, who has a show on our network called Richard Haddam's Paranormal Bookshelf, which is a great show. And he's a screenwriter. He wrote the screenplay for the Mothman Prophecies. He's the one that wrote that. So he had recommended these books. He collects paranormal books and has a really amazing collection and knowledge of all of them. And those two books and those two stories, you can look them up on Astonishing Legends. Look up The Vertical Plane or the Siren Call of Hungry Ghost series. Those two books kind of convinced me that you never really know what you're dealing with. And you will deal with things. If you get past, oh, I don't believe in any of this. You get past, oh, I got to prove this, which is how you start out. I want to get some proof. I want to get, as Forrest says, the ghost in a jar. I want to show everybody that I've got proof. I got this EVP. I got whatever. I got this photo. Look, it's a ghost. The thing is like, okay, let's stop. From those two stories for us, good at masquerading as something that you think you're connected to. And I think in some cases it is, and in other cases it isn't. And a lot of times you don't find out until you have a long-term interactive relationship with it and you get to a point where it runs out of the right answers. And when that happens, that is freaky. You know, when you're getting past that point. In fact, the guy that wrote The Siren Call of Hungry Ghosts actually wound up committing suicide not too long after he wrote the book. He had gone through a whole long love affair, in air quotes, that he had with someone that he believed had passed, that he had a prior relationship with, that he was communicating with through a medium. And then the further he got into it, he came to determine that that thing, whatever it was that was communicating through the medium was not.
My God, I know a lot of people want to experience, and I get that. A lot of people have beliefs. Actually, one second. There's been a cough holding my throat, so I'm going to pause for. Sorry. I don't know why suddenly I got a dry cough. The internet or this. I've never had such a weird coffee. I guess it's such a weird thing. I feel like this interview seems to not want to happen for some weird reason. I guess I'm not trying to take it personal. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Now, and the thing is, because I truly, I want to believe. I grew up with a very religious sort of not very, very religious, but I came with a religious background and and I used to do ghost hunts, and I have been places where I've encountered things that don't make sense to me. And your brain's like mine. I want to understand. I think that, you know, over the course of humanity, we've always pointed at the random sound in the woods and be like, oh, ghost or witch or some sort of ephemeral, weird terminology. And I think us doing it now is the same back then, but I still think that, like, if someone has interacted or someone's had an experience, they truly, I believe them, they experience something. What the experience is what I'm trying to figure out. Like, I interview people that, you know, like I've had the craziest fun stories. I have a call-in number so people can leave messages sometimes. And like, I had a guy call in and he swears he saw like a Bigfoot. I'm not judged. I mean, I trust them that they experience what they experience. Tell me your story. That's all the difference. And if I try to figure out what may be or whatever it is, but, you know, interacting with these people that have had truly crazy stories that push beyond what the normal beliefs are is what I live for. And I feel that's the same thing with you as well. You want to believe there's more than just what our science book says.
Yeah.
Now, good.
Yeah, you're right. And I guess that absolutely I think I just summed it up accidentally a few minutes ago. It's that, yeah, I believe in this stuff now. No, I don't think anyone knows what it is. And I think it's a little bit vain to think we do know when we say, oh, this is the ghost of so-and-so who died here. And then, you know, then it's like, I don't know. And there's another thing I want to say about Kenny Biddle, by the way. I love Kenny. Kenny and I had a couple of beers and some burgers when he was in North Carolina on business a couple years ago. We had a great time. I love his approach to things. And in fact, he has, if you listen to our Sally House series, he has a really good counterpoint on the digital recorder where he did a whole thing on, it's called the DR60. So I'd say if you listen to our thing and then go back, watch Kenny's YouTube video about the DR60, you can make your own decision about it. I don't agree with everything he said in it, but I love his approach to the analysis.
And that's Kenny, though. You don't have to, this is his take on it. Take it or leave it. And he's a person that if he doesn't, like, if he has to update his knowledge, like, you know what I think is this, that's how you're supposed to be in the world. He's like inquiry. He, you know, I was at Whispering Hills Estates, I forget what it is, in Indianapolis with him. We did a weekend ghost hunt there, and him and I, we hit it off. And I was telling the story, like, when they gave us the key, like, we'll see you in 2 days or 3 days, him and I started taking the place almost apart, being like, we got to find out. And I have, in my mental image, I have him climbing up through a hole in the floor, cover the cobwebs, holding a speaker, being like, look what I found, guys.
Yeah.
And sure enough, there's all this audio equipment in the basement there.
Oh, you guys busted somebody. That's
totally
amazing.
busted a guy. Yeah. And we found this out within the first 2 hours of us being there. And but he's not one of those guys that is like tearing you down. He's just like, he's along for the ride. He's like, oh, they believe it. We're having a whole weekend. Him and I sat back, had beers. We talked about the architecture of the thing, the history of it. So, but like, he's how I like skeptic to be. He's open-minded. He's not rude about it. No, that's what
it's exactly. Like, let's look into this, I mean, we have our biases. Obviously I have mine at this point. I just talked about them, and he has his probably against them, but his approach is very measured. And he'll talk about it with you, and it's not like a gauntlet and we have to get in a boxing ring about it. And that's not how I. So actually, this is funny. We're talking about this, kind of ties into a question. Mike is CMAR on Blue Sky, actually. So what do you think about the unified theory of the paranormal? Like how similar phenomena are called different things based on context, like a rock throw and would knock a Bigfoot, but inside a house is like a poltergeist. That's what his question. Yeah. We, Forrest and I have talked about this a lot. And I think we've even called it the gut P, the GUTP, the gut P, grand unified theory of the paranormal. But like that's something that we've mentioned a lot. We had a guest on our show, and it was eye opening to me, mostly because of the I think ontological is right. But anyway, how are you going to approach something? And so we had, and your listeners may have heard of Micah Hanks, who's a real good friend of mine and lives here in North Carolina, up in the mountains. And Micah came on our show because he's somewhat of an expert on Bigfoot, and he did an episode that we did called, I think we named it "The Search for Man-Like Monsters in History." And the whole premise of it, which I didn't know until he came in and was talking to us, was just about how the idea of Bigfoot has been pervasive across multiple cultures, going back thousands of years. We just all had different names and different words for it, and different ideas about how it might appear or disappear or interact with humans. And he's like, once you remove the the semantics, and you get past how people are calling the same thing different things to what you just said, then you start to realize maybe we are all talking about the same stuff. And that not just with Bigfoot, but with ghosts in general, with all, with poltergeists. It's like, are there other versions of this in other cultures that we've got in a different column? We've siloed it because the language is different, when really it should all be part of the same category. And so I try to think about that whenever we're covering something these days.
Nice. Yeah, I think perspective is key in a lot of this stuff here. I mean, everyone's kind of single data point and stuff. But yeah, the reason why I bring it up, apparently Mike's a listener. He was very excited to get a chance to ask that question, because he believes it too. That he's a lot like us, where things are like, we need to start not siloing so much, like putting a like bird's eye view and kind of seeing what else we're seeing from that pattern out there.
Yes.
But I actually have a couple more questions. I'm going to go back. I have one here that is, I'm saying it right now because it ties in what's happening. If we're actually having some little tech problems, but Thomas from Buffalo sends in, have you ever felt like something was trying to stop you from finishing an episode? Glitches, tech issues, weird vibes, that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. Not frequently, but it has happened. Of course, in that case, if you're working with tech all the time for 10 years. But now I can't even remember what the series was. Forrest might know. I can't remember if it was the Sally House. There was one series where my laptop inexplicably died while we were trying to record, just fully croaked, and I had to go get a new computer. It shut us down for like a week. But we have had other strange issues like the ones you and I are having now, and that's why I always have backups, because of course, when we started out, and I'm sure for you too, there were a lot less options in terms of recording with somebody online like we're doing right now. And also, there was not an option to have, not to get too technical for people, but to have the software you were using record the audio locally, which is the new breakthrough that everybody's doing. And I say new in the past 5 years, but like, when you didn't record the audio locally, internet or something, then the audio would get broken up and not be usable. So now a lot of these platforms are offering the ability to do that, but you had less options back in the day with that. But that's why Forrest and I almost always record locally, no matter what. Even our own show, we meet on video and use an app that records that audio, but our editor almost never uses it because we also are recording into separate digital audio editing software. And so we do backups on backups because there have been issues that are probably routine technical issues, but there have been other ones that are a little strange too. I can say that. So, and unfortunately, I can't remember which show it was that the laptop died, but I remember that we were fairly freaked out about it. So it was one of the prominent series that we've done over the years.
And it's crazy. Like I've never had tech problems as much as this show right now doing this one. So it's
okay.
Yeah. So it could be you.
That worries me a little bit when I'm talking.
Case in point.
Talking about Sally, frankly, I don't like connection lost. Oh,
dude, it was a hard. You actually froze for the. Usually, been like talking. This time, you're like, yeah.
I said the word Sally. Yeah,
that's what it was. Oh,
yeah,
Scott, man.
I said the word Sally, and I'll tell you another thing. By the way, that actually reminds me of another one that's even better answer to the question we just got. Sorry, who asked that question? The last one?
Thomas.
All right. So Thomas, one of the weirdest things that ever happened, I'm now remembering it. We were on Zoom, and it was me and Forrest, and we were talking to a psychic medium that we are friends with. And I will just say, obviously we know a lot of those folks. I personally think that generally folks that say that they're capable of doing stuff in that realm, I think about 1 in 10 of them are actually doing it. And I think the rest are not necessarily nefarious.
Yeah.
Are up to no good, but there I think we were talking on Zoom with this friend of ours who was we were specifically talking about the Sally house, and I can't remember why. And so the man that lived in the house had built this thing, this special effects looking thing, a creature that reminded him of something he encountered in the house that he called the Bacon Monster, because it looks like a man on all fours, but instead of flesh, it looks like raw pieces of bacon all over it. And it has a horrible face. And I have a picture of it somewhere on my computer, I think, if I didn't delete it, which is entirely possible. And anyway, we were having this discussion on Zoom with the psychic, and then that image got shared into the Zoom conversation.
Weird.
Spontaneous. I don't even know how Zoom saw it. And that was while we were talking about that house and the Bacon Monster specifically.
Wow.
Yeah. And I that was so crazy that I reached out to Zoom and I said, how, pardon my French, but how the fuck can this happen? Sent them an email. Truly. And it took them a week or two to get back to me. And they said, there's no way that should have happened. We have no explanation for it from a coding standpoint. And that's actually the weirdest thing that's ever happened. I forgot about that till just now, actually. So,
wow, that is amazing. Oh my God. So actually, I want to touch base. We're talking about Micah Hanks, which is phenomenal. Those who don't listen to him, he's got a zillion shows that I love. I like his 7 Ages. I'm a fan of like ancient early.
Yes.
Like, my dad used to study Native American art, like
very cool
and stuff. So I mean, I grew up with a guy. I would walk in fields. He's a farmer, so we walk in fields and find arrowheads, and he does this stuff. So aside from that, Bigfoot, UAP, he's got everything covered. So follow Micah Hanks.
Yes, also the editor-in-chief and a partner in the Debrief website, which is a great source for all kinds of news, national defense news, but also to a certain extent UFO, UAP stuff. So
USO, as you're a fan of,
yes, and right? USOs, which I'm very much a fan of. Yes,
so follow him along. But the reason I'm bringing it up is that he actually brings a topic up. One of my things I'm very impressed by with Astonishing Legend is you are now used as references for important things. Like I see, like, oh, this thing talking about. Well, hey, there's a 5-part series from this place called Astonishing Legends. Hey, there's a thing like the PGF film, the Patterson Gilman. If it's brought up, invariably someone will bring up your 6 parts. How many?
I think it's 6 parts. I think it
is invariably brought up being like this is a resource to pull from.
Yes.
So first off, kudos for that to be used as a reference for it. It must be interesting to feel that way. First off, right? Like a trusted source.
Yeah, it is. he wants to think of us as trying to be the podcast of record on it, which was easier when we started out and there was like 10 shows. Now there's like 50, but
Oh yeah.
that's why we don't always go after the big stuff, because a lot of times other people, including our friends, have done it as good as it's going to get done, but if we think we can bring something new to it, or an eyewitness or an author who has got, first person knowledge of something, then we'll go ahead and tackle a big one like that.
Now, the next tie-in was mentioned to Micah. Micah has been talking recently about wiki biases and how stuff in there. Now, you use wiki as a reference as well. Like, it's a nice, simple way, has a kind of a general stuff in there. But what is your thoughts on like the idea of like wiki biases, especially you, because you're being used as a source now for your show?
Yeah, it's the thing about it is it's changed a lot. I mean, almost it's done an approach to the paranormal and the unexplained. And it used to say, I mean, they would apply the term pseudoscience to, and probably rightfully so, to a lot of aspects of paranormal investigations. But now it's become downright dismissive, and pretty much every listing is like, this is false. They almost never cite, the idea that maybe academia is too stuck in the mud when it comes to approaching the unexplained, which we've had academics come on our show and say personally, including Dr. Avi Loeb. They're like, who was shunned by his colleagues for suggesting that Oumuamua might have been some kind of probe, whether it was or not. The way he was treated by his colleagues is abhorrent. It's like, let's have an open mind here. But I feel like there is a bias. I don't know what Micah's saying about it, but I'm sure he's seeing the same things we're seeing. There's definitely we just did an episode, I don't know, I guess 2 or 3 months ago now, where we interviewed the executive director of the Rhine Institute in Durham, North Carolina, which goes back to JB and Louisa Rhine, and the original sort of university-based paranormal research facility, which was part of Duke University when it started. And but now it's a standalone place, which it has been for decades, but they do some really amazing research there. And one of the things that the executive director, John Kruth, said to me was like, you stop using Wikipedia, go to the Sci Encyclopedia. So now, like, a lot of times we go there, it's PSY-encyclopedia. It doesn't have entries for everything, but like if you go to Wikipedia and you look up the Fox sisters, or you go to the Sci Encyclopedia, you get a much better, more open-minded, but not necessarily overly credulous approach to what the Fox sisters were and what happened with them. And so I would say it's not a source for us as much now for our particular research. I still rely on it for day-to-day stuff, but when it comes to topics that we cover, it's sort of a third tier source at this point. Or I go down to the sources that are listed in the entries and try to get as first source as we can. If it's a paper that was written, or an interview, or a section in a book, I like to go all the way back to where they're extrapolating it from.
You definitely seem as a man who likes the deep dives, and your show has like a research core of people, the Astonishing team, right?
Yeah, we do, and it's like we've had them a while, and they've been amazing over the years. I have to be honest, we rely on that volunteer support less now than we used to, because research has gotten so much trickier, particularly with AI in the mix that's happening with the search engines all switching over to AI, which, Google's economic revenue has collapsed because when you type in a search now, it doesn't go through Google. It goes through an AI return. So it's getting harder to vet stuff because there's a lot more bad information is coming up. So it's really difficult, but we do still maintain a research core, and we communicate with them via Discord. We have a Discord for that, and they can be super helpful. And some of the best members of that team, it's wild. The ones that have worked for to help us over the years, which our friend Marie Mayhew, who used to do the Mad Scientist podcast with Chris Cogswell. Her husband calls it free search. They did free search because they would help us and not get paid. But it's pretty great stuff. And like she, for example, is a fraud investigator for a giant corporation. So that's the perfect perks. I'll leave it a non-specified Department of Homeland Security arm. So it's like we got some people that we can call on when we can't quite get there through, the normal internet.
That's amazing. It's you seem to have pulled your audience and your followers, the folks that I interact with, have been a remarkably kind, healthy group. I don't know, like a lot of shows, a lot of stuff off the comment feed is rough. I have to say, kudos for you for curating somehow this. You have your listeners, your fan base, the people, like I said, the people that share your links to shows have always the helpful, happy ones. I don't know. It's just the extrapolation of your nature and you in forest, or like kudos for that. There's not even a question here, just a simple statement of you guys are really nailing it for that.
Sorry.
See the cough. Look at that. The ghost is getting us both.
Something went down the wrong way. Sorry. Of our discourse, which is not argumentative, or we're right and you're wrong, or it's stupid to think these things, or that I'm hoping that that's part of what attracts certain people to our show. But on the other hand, the other huge component of that has entirely to do with our right-hand woman, Tess Feifel, who's been with us at 9 years now, I think.
Oh my God. Wow.
And she is our super admin for our Facebook group, which is a huge, vibrant group that I actually no longer personally participate in. I think Forrest drops in there every now and then, just because I've started to feel a little strange. They wanted to do their own thing, and I didn't feel right being in there. I wanted them to be able to complain about us if they want to, or not complain or whatever. But it is a very healthy community, and it's not that nothing has happened in there. It's that because things, and also the other admins that she enlists to help monitor it, who are all volunteers. They're amazing. These folks that are in there, and that's a rotating group because it's a lot of work to keep an eye on it, because I think it's about 20,000 people in our private group right now. But for the most part, everybody is pretty well behaved. And then Tess and those admins have come up with a really good set of rules. People know what they can and can't do. And if anything starts to get toxic, people generally get booted pretty quickly. And but that doesn't happen too much. That's the nice thing. It doesn't really. So I don't know. I'd like to be like, oh, well, it's because Forrest and I are nice guys. I'm brushing my fingernails on my shirt. But I think as much of anything, it's Tess being a super, super great social media admin person.
Well, it's great to have a solid team that brings it together. I'm impressed. Actually, and I said your listeners are somewhat like, mind you, I am one as well. So I'm also patting myself in the back, I guess, being cool. But is there, like, thanks to your listeners, has there ever been like a favorite like listener theory or piece of feedback that totally like blindsided you in a good way? Like, I want a good way story.
Oh boy, I'm trying to, I feel like there has, but I might have a hard time recollecting that. A lot of times what will happen is people will say, oh my God, I just saw this thing on YouTube and it's mystery solved, which is one of my favorite things to butt heads with, is mystery solved, because 9 times out of 10 you see that headline, absolute nothing is solved. It's just a new form of conjecture, and sometimes it's not even a new one, it's just rehashed. So, and I mean, just last week we got something, and I asked Marie, who's in the research corps, the fraud investigator I was telling you about, I said, can you look into this, see if there's anything to it? And she started looking into it, and it turned out it was no new information. It was just somebody has created a video that they want a lot of links to, and it's a more subtle form of clickbait, because they're talking about some famous mystery like Dyatlov Pass, or Dyatlov Pass, or the Mary Celeste, or whatever, and they'll say mystery solved, but the component of it that's mystery solved has either been unvetted or is totally made up just to get people to look at it. And then those things are getting forwarded to us because we've covered those topics, and it's like, look, they figured it out. And it's like, when you drill down on it, they haven't figured anything out. But there are other cases of things, like just recently, one of our patrons and a highly interactive person, her name's Trish, pointed out, we were just talking about, we just finally covered the Flatwoods Monster. And one of the witnesses to the Flatwoods Monster incident stated that what he saw in V2 rocket. And I said in the show, well, we didn't have those in the United States. There's no reason that one would be here. And then after the show posted, Trish went into our Patreon and she was like, actually, we did capture some, and we played around with them at Cape Canaveral and White Sands. And I was like, oh, wow. So then I had to drill down on that after the show came out. And this was just a few days ago. And she's right, because she has a lot of knowledge about that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I was comforted in the fact that the V2's range is 200 miles, and you couldn't get a rocket from Cape Canaveral or White Sands to West Virginia. So it's definitely not participating in the Flatwoods incident. But I misspoke, and she pointed that out, and I didn't catch that when we were researching it and stuff like that. So that kind of stuff does happen, and I'm glad for it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Cause you want to be right. Like you want to be the factuals. Like what truly matters to you is the truth is out there. You don't need to have an ego about one of the reasons, like your show, there's not an ego between you and Forrest. You want to share stories. You're excited about it, and you want the world to be as excited as you are. And the more information you get on these topics, the more you realize some of these legends really are worth someone's attention. Like something happened, something weird. There was a Sandown clown walking around, a weird thing. Like, a lot of stuff that way, like you are excited to share without an ego, which I think is one of the reasons why 10 years, 11 years coming up soon is why it's been lasting that long.
Your listeners can't see us, but that's a listener art hanging on the wall behind me is
oh my God, it is
Sam the Sandown Clown watercolor, which is one of my favorite things, favorite listener art that I have ever
that's awesome.
We've ever gotten. I bought it. Like they were like, check this out, and I was like, I want it now. How much do you want?
It's funny, I actually didn't know that. Like, on my screen, I have it kind of cut down for this here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I zoomed out. What a funny pull. Yeah. So actually I have something I want to share with you. I had a guest on last week or a couple weeks ago now. John Michael Gaudier. He is a science fiction author, and he does a lot of sci-fi things. Also has scientists on. Like he actually interviewed Ivy Loeb as well. And he had a topic. So I was talking about having you on. We're talking about USOs and UFOs. And he blew my mind with something I want to pass along to you.
Okay.
You're talking because you and Forrest talk about how the idea that, aliens can't crash. They're so much advanced. They wouldn't have a failed crashed spaceship that way in there. So I was referencing that, like, oh, and he's like, well, why do you think, like, what do you mean they crashed? Like, and he looks at me, he's like, when we send stuff up, we send the rovers up. We have our stuff is crash landed everywhere, and that was by design.
Right.
And I was like, what? Yeah. He's like, so have you ever considered that the crash you encounter is actually by design? There is the reason I say this is that there's like plenty of episodes you guys talking about, oh, they wouldn't have crashed, but for all we know that it did crash, that's done. And the thing that came out of the crash was long since designed out there. So I had to pass this little note along that John Mike, amazing guy. And he is super science guy, but also a sci-fi author. So he's got a great spin on the topics.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Yeah. So passing along, I was talking about, he's like, oh my God, tell them if they worry about it, that they didn't crash. That was the part that was supposed to crash. The other part is floating around doing its job. So yeah. So I'm passing that little note along.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. So that was my fan.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, he's a fun dude. Very, very interesting guy. But yeah, I want to pass along that I never thought about that. The crash land was not the crash. That was designed to crash. The rover is actually doing its thing wherever that may be. So.
All right. It's like the ships in the remake of War of the Worlds, Tom Cruise version. There's like that's coming down, crashing into the earth for a reason. Or the lightning.
Yeah, cutting into this stuff. That's amazing. So I do want to say something cool that it says, thanks to you, I did a bit of remote viewing with the woman you worked with. Her name was Yeah. Lori Williams. So I decided to take the course. There's a free course. If anyone's interested in doing that, I have to stress that she is truly a remarkable woman. Yes. I wasn't sure to do it because, like, when you watch her videos, it's not the most refined videos. I feel sometimes it's like, like the church video. Like there's like
her. God knows I really do love her, but like the marketing approach and the branding on her website, it's not what she knows about. But that's okay with me. Like, because I remember thinking, oh, this is you got this. It's a little too new agey looking, and people are going to be put off by that. But my thing is, that's your loss, honestly, because once you do this, and you realize that it's something that anyone can do if they're properly trained, you get past, her logos and that sort of thing. And she's training people on a corporate level to the tunes of to get certified at the corporate top level, I think there are CEOs and I guess theoretically, possibly corporate espionage people or people that are doing it defensively to try and figure out, what's the next formula Coke's going to do. I don't care if they got it locked in a safe. I mean, that I guess is happening. And I also know from her, there are people that use, there's lots of different versions of it. There's controlled remote viewing. There's ARV, which is associated remote viewing. That's the one I kind of want to learn because that's the one you used to try to play the lottery. And and she had told me, I've actually stayed with her at her home in New Mexico on a road trip.
Really?
Me and my son did. Yeah. And her and her husband and had a great time. And, she had told me about one of her students that she had run into somewhere. She was at a symposium, I think a remote viewing thing, and this guy pulled up in a Ferrari, and he had won the lottery. According to him, he told her as her student, they don't say that they remote viewed it, but so you're not going to hear, but that's the thing. No one's going to be like, I remote viewed this. Everyone should remote view. They just did it and then they got the money. But the other thing that Lori says in those classes is that's interesting is some folks cannot do it if the outcome is personal gain. Some can and some can't. I feel like.
I'm guilty. I can't. I am great at helping other people for my own personal gain. I can make positive ripples elsewhere. But for me personally, I rarely ever can do that. Like, I can't even roll dice to play a game for me to win. I don't have, which is fine, but.
Right. Well, the interesting thing that she said is there's not necessarily a connections to morality and ethics. She's like, some folks that are really good folks can still make that part work for lottery numbers or what have you. And other folks that are bad people can do it to her. And one of them, I said, you talk about the environment you set up when you go to do a controlled remote viewing, for example. And it's like, should I be rested? Should I lay in bed with my eyes closed? Should I sit at a desk with a piece of paper? And she's like, well, what you have to do is try all of those things. And then the one that's getting you the best results is what you repeat. And I said, well, what if you're hungover or whatever? And she's like, some people work best hungover. She was just like, you just got to figure out how it works best for you, because the primary goal of it is controlling how your conscious mind is influencing your subconscious mind. So whatever you have to do to sideline your conscious mind, that's why there's so much technique to it. And it was developed by the military. It's not to make it this weird, cultish, esoteric technique. It's really just to keep that part of your brain busy so the other part can do this thing that it can do. And so at least that's what I've learned. But here's my question for you.
So,
you took the free one. Did it involve a target?
The target, it was actually not a target. I didn't get too far into it because it actually bothered me. Listen, I was trying to figure out where to put. I do large installments. I do artwork, and I'm trying to make things for people to enjoy. Like, I want to do something. So the target was, where should I put some?
You went in with a personal goal.
Goal. Well, personal goal for me. Yeah, it's a personal goal for more of where the community will have the most response to having something put there. Like, where in this region should I put something that the eyes are going to see and it's going to capture people's attention? And it wasn't like, and I'm not trying to be famous. I don't even sign my work. I just want to put something so people will find it that way.
Right.
So I put together this, and I do these large crows. They're 8 feet by huge pieces of artwork. I have a big whiteboard, and like you said, you have to get the conscious brain to stop and think and just kind of like, I'm like a scrying mirror, kind of just to kind of lose for self for a bit. And I drew out like, okay, I should put it over near, and there's this gorgeous park called the Highland Park. It's one of the only, I'll tell you this, it's one of the only open air reservoirs that cities in the US still has. There's only 2 or 3 left in there. So it's this gorgeous hill, lilac everywhere, plants. It is an Olmsted Park, which he designed parks back in the day. So we have a bunch of them in Rochester. We have gorgeous parks, something else. And I decided
because he did Central Park.
Central Park. We
and the grounds of the Biltmore House here in North Carolina.
The University of Rochester. He did the stuff there. We have our zoo is in an Olmsted Park. Like there's parks. Rochester is gifted with amazing, like, we're a great city. So I decided to draw I'm just, and I have a big whiteboard. So I kind of just drew out this spot. I'm like, oh my God, it's Highland Park. It'd be really nice right here. There's these big metal fences. I can like attach them on there. It's this one spot. And so I was going to do it that week. That week, I ended up getting, I think it was COVID. I think what it was. I get knocked back. Right. It was, oh my God, COVID's a whole other story in this thing. But so I didn't put that up there. I just kind of like didn't get a chance to. I'm like, I'll do it when I get it, whatever I have a chance to do it. I'll put it up because I wanted to. And I was like, oh, this would be good. It'll be before the Highland Park Festival. It's a whole bunch of blah blah blah. So fast forward, I get a little better as I'm sitting there. One of the weirdest news ever. They find a body in the park, in the reservoir.
Oh, you have told me this story. Yes, I remember this now. Yes.
This is in the reservoir. We find a body, and the body, unfortunately, had been there for 3 weeks. Something else.
Wasn't there a dumpster involved or something? Or
no, not this one. This was this one. It just dumped, like the body was just in there. This is no dumpster.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this one they just happened to find a body in there, and they're like, oh well, it's only been there for a few days. Oh, it's been there for a month. Something else. So the news, they keep talking the news, and they pop up the scene of where they find the body in there. And if I show you the drawing of where that body was, the metal fence is right there. The thing, I would have had all of my giant ominous black crows. I'd have half a dozen of these crows literally looking around where that body was found.
My God.
So, and that went global news, like that picture. And I was like, if I had done that, if I wasn't sick, I would have put. And how ominous would that have been? Like literally there's a body right here. And there's also half a dozen 8 foot by 4 foot tall, huge, like looking ravens looking over this dead body.
You would be the Banksy of death.
Oh my God. So it bothered me in a weird way that it was like, and I've always had some interest, that's
a little bit like the genie or the djinn or whatever, you get 3 wishes. Well, here's my wish. Where's the place this will get the most exposure? And it's like, if you don't qualify that, it's like, well, here's where it's going to, because
everyone was seeing it. It would have been like a friend of mine, the guy next door, he was in England doing something else. And a friend of mine in India is like, oh my God, I just saw you have, and they sent me a link and I'll send you the picture, drawing on the board.
Yes.
Clearly that
I want to see it.
It was a pull directly. I'll show you the.
In fact, man, I would like you to come on our show and talk about this. Actually,
I would love to.
I'm just, Forrest and I talk about how people just start eye rolling the minute we talk about remote viewing. I'm just like, you have got to try this before you poo-poo it. You have got to understand. We're not trying to like turn you into anything. It's like
there's the there as you say it.
What happens? Yeah, it's that is wild. I don't think I did know this story. I was maybe thinking of another story you told me. Was there a fire near your studio or something?
Oh yeah. We had a dumpster fire.
That was the dumpster thing. Yeah.
So, and that one I just happened to have been here, and I kind of like just happened to stay. I stay late anyway. I just happened to park in the back of the thing. Don't get me wrong. I have a very good sense of luck in my life. It's enough so that my friends joke about me that I will be standing in the exact right spot. And that's one of the reasons why I don't think me gambling works, because I'm already having the best flow of luck. And I feel I'm very, very happy to have this statement to say that I'm living a very fortunate life. My one friend thinks the universe noticed me for good or bad. It'll be whatever happens. It'll be that level for good or bad, something that way. But yeah, so I walked out, just happened to been parked in the back that one time, walked out, and I saw, like, I smelled smoke, walked out, and there's smoke coming up. I see there's a street light, and I realized the smoke's going up to the street light, not past it. So that means it's underneath that street light right there. So we had
Lori also trains criminal investigators and folks that try to help and that kind of stuff. She also trains medical personnel who want to try and diagnose things on a cellular level. So it's all this. She has classes for everything. The reason I asked you, I thought maybe you'd done the course. There's a basic course. Excuse me, I have to cough again. Excuse me. There's a basic course where there's a target that she has placed a photograph of in an envelope, and you're supposed to identify that target. And I don't want to reveal it in case she's still offering that course.
Yeah, don't, because she is still offering. I think this is the one I did. Yeah, so she's
she
still
hasn't
offering
updated it. Like, did you do one like that?
Yes, I did do one like that.
Did you identify the target?
Okay. For me, it was close, but not like
mine was remarkably
Oh,
close.
really?
And it
Mine
started
was,
with
yeah.
the ideogram. Do you remember what the ideogram is? The first step where you just make a squiggle with a
Yeah,
pen?
yeah, 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 yeah.
The thing I drew with the pen without thinking on the piece of paper was a near
Nice.
perfect representation of what the viewing. So I'll get off of it. But like the other thing that was interesting about it was
Oh.
you have to focus to a certain extent on the actual location rather than the photograph of the location. And this would
Mhm.
happen with professional remote viewers too. It's like the target, what we have as the target is what's in the image, not the image itself. We don't need you to tell us where the envelope is with the picture in it. We need to just,
Mhm.
we need you to tell us where the place is that's in the picture. And
Mhm.
so there's a whole level of training that goes into it. It takes years to get good at it. Years.
Dude, it actually bothered me. It happened, and I was just kinda getting into it, and
Yeah.
it hit me, and I don't know why I kinda backed away from it. Maybe it
Yeah.
was just a little like,
It's
it just
scary.
yeah,
Honestly,
yeah,
it
yeah.
is scary. It is a little scary.
And I have encountered things in my life that I've answered questions. If you catch me when I'm halfway falling asleep or one of those in between states is one of my best times. If you ask me a question at that point, I will pull an answer out that would blow your mind. Like, and so I realize there's more to this world. That's one of those reasons that I think that like there's a wonder, there is something connection. There is some sort of more to this world because that like how would I have known? I've interact with people that have known things they shouldn't have known.
Yeah.
And that just shows, like, again, I don't know the answer. I'm not saying I know the answer. I just say that this is something that truly should be, don't poo-poo this. There is something there, like, and that's what a great thing. Like, humans are bigger than we think we are. There's
Yeah.
more of wonder in this universe.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I had to bring up that topic because like there's a there as you say.
Yes.
There's
Yes. Exactly.
so
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I we can ramble on as long as you want, but I'll send you the picture. I have
Yeah, I want to see
this one.
that. I want to see the picture of that, the picture and whatever was on the news. And then I'll tell you too, the other thing that is really fascinating to me is because the ARV, that's the associated remote viewing. And that's when you're trying to come up with lottery numbers or something
Mhm.
else. But the way that works is you have to have someone to work with you who you as the viewer are identifying things that are associated with stuff that's blind to you. So what
Mhm.
happens, for example, if you say, oh, well, I want to pick 4 lottery numbers or whatever, a low number of lottery numbers. And so you identify what happens is your other person who's coordinating with you in another location says, okay, well, I'm going to represent the digits 1 through 9 here. Number 1 is going to be the taste of salt. Number 2 is going to be the taste of lemon. Number 3 is going to be the taste of a pickle. Number 4 is going to be the smell of cumin or whatever. And they do all of that. And then what happens is they decide what you're going to view, and you go and you say, and they say to you, all right, I want you to move forward in time to 6 now I smelling cumin or whatever. And the other person is writing down the numbers that he's associated with that. The person who's the viewer doesn't know the numbers that are associated with it.
Mhm.
And so you do that. And in theory, you're plucking those numbers out of the ether. And then later, if they wind up being winning numbers, that's how you train. But this is the funkiest part of that. And I love that portion of it. But and there's a whole lot more to it than that. You have to take a course on it. You can't just learn it from me doing 3 sentences. But the other thing that you do that I thought was really mind blowing is like, if you do actually win, even when you're starting and you win like $10 or whatever, you have to celebrate like a lot. So you would go have a couple of beers, buy yourself a cupcake or some cake or what, and you make a big deal of it because you create what Lori calls a temporal attractor. And the
Mhm.
temporal attractor is this big associate the whatever the better that I don't know how to describe this, but the bottom line is if I win next week and then I go and really celebrate that I won, then the prior session I did where I identified the lemon and the cumin and the salt becomes more prominent as a training exercise. So
Mhm.
essentially you're telling yourself that in the future, it's kind of like Bill and Ted. I'm going to leave the keys to the jail cell behind the desk, like you're kind of doing that. And that's how you get better at ARV. So, and that's just one of the rules about it. The underlying thing, the elephant in the room that they don't even talk about is that time is nonlinear if this works for you, because
Mhm.
you are you're saying that I'm going to celebrate this later if it works out, so that the thing I did 2 weeks earlier works better the next time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
what is time? That's the
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I fully believe it, because I've actually been in the past. I don't tell a lot of people this. In the past 2 or 3 years, I've been trying to, like, you can remember the past, remember the future. It's just
Yeah.
like when I come to a point in like something's happening in my day, I pause and try to hear what my future self is like yelling in the past. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
like when
That's
I have,
exactly it.
so if I'm doing something right now, I'll be like, oh my God, I should have done X, Y, or Z. So like, or sometimes if I'm sitting someplace, myself, I should have put this in the fridge. I'd be a cold drink now. So every once in a while I'll be like, oh, I'm going to do something right now. And I'll put it, and I'll, like I say, thank you, my future self. Like in my future
That's
self is
exactly what I'm talking about. That's a
so,
temporal attractor.
yeah.
And
So
the more
I
you
tried to do
train
that.
yourself to do that, in theory, the better you'll get at that stuff, which is, then that's just
exactly
a side effect of training for ARV.
Yeah. And I feel like it helps me steer my ship, for lack of a better term. Like and I put a little more faith. Maybe it could be just placebo. It could be like having more faith in myself now because I help myself in the future. Who knows? But being like, but the idea was, and I do this now because I have done stuff. Last week we were I do an open studio at my studio. Artists can come in. It's community space. People can come in, enjoy themselves. And I was sitting there. All of a sudden I stood up, grabbed some stuff and put it in the freezer and walked back, sat down, didn't talk about it. And about 3 or 4 hours later, all people's like, oh man, I wish we had those things to be all icy and cold now. I'm like, it's already in there. And they're like, wait, what? I'm like, and I saw it. I'm like, so I stopped. I'm like, me in the past, put it in the freezer. Like, we are very happy right now. We're all celebrating it. Like, we're all here, but like, thanks, past you.
You're already doing this. I love that you're already doing this. I'm trying to describe this concept to people, and you're like, oh yeah,
no, try it. I mean, but it's a sense of wonder. I think there is a lot of it's thanks to sci-fi. There is shows, there's things. The concept of being not in your temporal self, like temporal alignment, because this is funny. Probably 15, 16, maybe 20 years ago, whatever. I had this person on. She's very lovely, very artistic, like had a gift for everything she touched. She picked up like it was a master's level work. Like she's like, oh, I'm gonna do some paintings. She was doing portrait work that were beyond, and like she didn't go to college for it. She just everything she did. And I was doing something one day and she looked at me and she's like, do you know that you don't live in the same temporal setting as everyone else does around you, right? I'm like, what? She's like, you are a few minutes in the past and present and future at all times. Like not everyone's that way. You are. And I was standing there being like, okay. And she's like, you should listen to yourself. And I was like, it's like, you can feel the ripples from the time forward and back, like more than other people probably will. And again, I have no idea, but she was a very lovely woman.
Yeah.
Strikingly amazing at pulling stuff out. Like her sense of, I had to describe it. Her sense of being around people, she always would attract amazing people. She'd have decent people around. She would also, like, if someone was like, if I trusted her, if she didn't like someone, it's going to probably be a horrible person later on. But she said it one day. She was like, you don't live. Actually, she also, if you listen to me talk, I stumble over and I talk fast. And she's like, that's why too, because you aren't in you're not in the moment that everyone else is. You're in a 3-second before and after. And that's how you are. And I was like,
right.
I have no idea. It's how she described me, but she always goes, do that. So when I started doing this, her voice popped in my head being like, time isn't how you see it. You're not living this a single strand going here. You can you can choose, like she fully feels that knowing this, you can pick the flow of time, be in the right timeline. You can go almost like Donnie Darko, that path that's going through the chest, something else. She's like, you can see that path if you get out of your own way. And she was very sweet about it. So I hope she's doing good. I haven't thought about her in, said 15 years, give or take now, probably. But yeah, that's what I do. So oddly enough, I had to talk about this because I know there's plenty of topics to talk about for Astonishing Legends, but one of the things that I feel that really made you realize that there is something more to this world was listening to you talk about remote viewing and that way. So
yeah, well, and I'll just say to the people that haven't already turned this off, if you want to check out Lori's stuff, it's her company's called Intuitive Specialists, and I think it's that.com or whatever. If you want to take that, she has free courses all the time.
Yeah, that's what I started. The free courses, because I mean, I'm an artist, I can't afford a whole lot, and I messaged her a couple of times on just being like, "This is fun, thank you for it. Let me know." And I want to do more. It's on my list when I win the lotto, I guess.
I know it's time consuming. It's like learning it's like becoming a sensei and any martial art. It's like you got to spend a lot of time. And if I didn't have the show, and this is what I tell people, and I don't think they believe me, but like if we didn't have the show and a full-time job, it's
Yeah.
literally the only
And
thing I would be
reason
trying
I
to
stopped
learn.
was I realized I
Yeah.
couldn't half-ass that. I should give it its worth full
Yeah.
attention. And I
Yes,
didn't have it.
exactly.
I set it
Yeah.
down. So my brain's being like, well, like in the wintertime, when I get kind of that's a little less crazy and chaotic,
Yeah.
I've been sitting down. So hopefully this year I'm going to try to tackle that more. And I'm trying to look for more people that other people that are along those sort of vibe and lines and stuff. So but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
But so I'm gonna do a quick little. I know we're already about an hour and some minutes into this already here, so I don't want to keep rambling on because I will. You guys are amazing. But thanks to the show, are there things that you may not have believed before and are more willing to now? Like here, I'll give you a quick like list of things just to.
Okay.
So, did you believe in Bigfoot before the show? Do you have a believe in afterwards?
I believed in the possibility of Bigfoot. After doing the Patterson Gimlin series, I absolutely believe that Bigfoot has existed at some point. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people are seeing wildlife and reporting it as Bigfoot, but I also think there's something really out there.
Gotcha. I agree. I mean, there's plenty of examples of, we're an ape, a lot of bipedal apes walking around doing stuff. So, do you believe in time travel
Yeah.
before and after? There's no wrong answers too. Like you can even
No,
say
I
it.
know. I believe this actually goes back to we were just talking about remote viewing. For me, I believe in the mental ability to time travel, but not physically.
That's understandable. Yeah.
So far, anyway.
So yeah. Do you believe in before there's been stories of teleportation and apportation things? Do you believe that happens in this universe?
I believe apportation of objects happens. I don't know about living things. I believe since Skinwalker Ranch, a little bit in living things passing through portals.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily believe in Beam Me Up Scotty or The Fly yet,
Mhm.
but I think that science could get to a point where that could become a possibility.
Yeah, we have some news past week. We're actually having more subatomic teleportation has been happening. I saw it coming out that way. So
But that isn't that connected to
Mhm.
spooky action at a distance. I think the idea is it's molecularly identical, but it's a different molecule. I think.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I try to keep up on it. Luckily,
Yeah.
the University of Rochester's got a lot of weird nerds that post stuff, so I'm always
No,
trying
that's
to keep up
cool.
that way.
Very cool.
Now, do you have a belief in the Fae or like gnomes or things this way?
It's funny. I haven't ever been super into that, but since we've done our show, it's come up a lot from a lot of people. And I think that's one of those things that has a very strong folkloric component that people who are
Mhm.
into folklore really love, which I get because it's a very cool idea. When it comes down to the reality of something like that, I believe in it more than I used to, but it's still lower on the rungs for me or on the
Mhm.
totem pole, I guess, which I don't even know. It's
I can always edit stuff out too. That's how it works. That's the thing about it.
yeah, okay. Maybe you should
But
take that out. Let me rephrase.
good.
Um, um, so I believe in them more. I believe in the Fae and that kind of stuff more than I did when we started the show. But it's a little bit. I'm a little bit more incredulous about it than I am other topics we've covered.
I'm the same way. I think some people have encountered stuff, and I never like one of the women who works for me. She was in Netherlands, and she was about to hop in a hot tub, and she swears she saw a little creature wearing an outfit standing outside the building. She was staring at it, and like when she blinked, it wasn't there again. And
Oh
so,
wow, that's
I mean,
cool.
like, and she works for me. She was like, "I have a story for you," and
Yeah,
I'm one of those guys that are probably like you. People come up to me like, "I got a story to tell you about
yeah,
this,
yeah.
or this," and always tell me your story. Always tell me the random like, I don't need to believe what you're saying as long as you believe it. That's my whole thing. As long as that way.
No.
So now here's one that I actually really like. It's a topic: sky creatures.
Oh, okay. So organic sky creatures,
Yeah, let's go
or
either or. There's like let's go organic sky creatures.
or
Let's go
like
that way
the
too.
jellyfish UFO UAP situation.
Mhm. No,
Or as our friend Rob Christofferson said, upside down clown pants he saw once, or like
that's right. That's right. Oh my god, I forgot that.
but yeah, I am more and more open to that. I
Same.
haven't seen anything myself. I do see a lot of weirdly. I'm down at the beach in North Carolina right now, and there's very low levels of light pollution where I am. And almost any night of the year I can see satellites and sometimes even shooting stars if the moon is not up and there's no clouds. But I have also seen things exhibiting non-ballistic motion, but they're still just points of light, like stars that exhibit non-ballistic motion. Stuff that's come up lately is this daylight stuff that is not in our the visible spectrum for humans. And the idea that it's being caught on, FLIR or some other sort of format of sophisticated camera is very interesting to me. And whether or not those things do seem, when you watch the videos that like Corbell is releasing, it's like it looks like biomechanical or maybe even biological. It is weird to think that those things could be out there, and it's totally plausible from an evolutionary standpoint that things are existing that we can't see just because of how some branch went and during evolution, either in their favor or because it's irrelevant to our existence because it's not a threat to us or what. I don't know. It's strange. So yeah, I hadn't heard that term before, but I'll sign off on saying that I believe in the possibility.
I fully believe. I have a guy that want to come on the show. He is he's actually a creature designer and everything else, but his background was in biology because I met him. I do the Seneca Park Zoo. I'm the illustrator for the signs and stuff. So I'm at so I chatted with this guy who is also a biologist, and he's trying to do ancient early creatures from fossils and stuff. And one of his big proponents is that he believes that the atmosphere before things start happening, there was like large things that floated around our atmosphere because why not? It's got plenty of resources. It's got, so he thinks that there's sky jellyfish could have existed and you would never find them because they would never have ever, they would never leave a fossil. If they're soft enough to float in the sky, the chance of them ever showing up, it may be a thin layer of something that if you're not looking for, you'd never see. So his concept is that we've missed out on a chance of there or sky creatures at some point. So yeah, so I want to have him on the show at some point. Yeah, exactly. And that's again, biology guy and me, we don't know. We have 3 or 4% of knowledge of what existed on this planet before us. Yeah. So the idea that maybe there was something floating around that way. And again, and also like you said, our visual spectrum, like if you look at the electromagnetic spectrum of the whole spectrum, so you go from if you stretch it out from California to the Atlantic, the amount we see is the size of our thumb. That's the full. That's all we get there.
That's right.
Plenty of other things can be doing stuff that these eyes don't detect. So
right.
Yeah. Now your other question. You get shared a lot for the black-eyed kids scenario.
Oh yeah.
You believe there was some sort of thing there? Is there a before you and after you? Is there now you're more concerned about if a kid walks up to your car after 10 years of Astonishing Legends?
We've had a fair amount of story. We covered that, and we went back, which is folks may know this, but that's basically a bastardization of the phrase copy and paste, because it is like a story that you copy and you change it and paste it back in, and it lives on the internet and comes on. It's like the Slender Man and stuff like that. And that's what a lot of folks thought that Black-Eyed Kids were. And they pointed back to one of the original kind of recent origin stories, which was something that happened to a man named Brian Bethel in Texas. Brian, when we covered that series, he came on our show, and he's an active member of our Facebook group. I think he's still pretty active in there. And going back to the source with him, Andy's a journalist. He was like, no, this happened to me. I had this scenario. And that was when he was parked outside a movie theater and these kids came up to the car. Since we did that show, though, a lot of people sent stuff in. And we recently, we're 37 or 38 episodes in now. We've started a weekly email story show called the Dead Letter Office.
Which I love, by the way.
You guys, thank you. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And
sorry, continue. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but there's been more Shadow People, Hat Man, and Black-Eyed People stories coming in than one would expect. And in fact, we had one that just ran with a guy who was in traffic, I think in the Bronx or, one of the outer boroughs for Manhattan or New York City. And he saw something driving a car that was black-eyed and had an impossible grin. This thing tied in with black-eyed kids, black-eyed adults, Indrid Cold and the Impossible Grin, and then also it had a remarkable visual similarity to a being that Terry Lovelace, who has been on our show about an abduction experience at Park in Arkansas. He had ongoing interactions with this being that somewhat resembled a diminutive Asian woman, but was different. And that's almost what this guy saw in the car in New York, which freaked me out. So when people start sending stuff in and it's got common ground with other stories we've covered that they haven't necessarily heard, or they didn't put two and two together on that always freaks me out. So yeah, the black-eyed, there seems to be something there. I'm glad I haven't encountered anything, and I don't particularly want to.
So you think these things are kind of hiding in plain sight? Do you think this sort of, if they do exist?
I think it's possible. I think, it's like you were talking about with the sky creatures or whatever. It's like maybe there's things that are there that we just can't see. We're not ready to see, Do
you think, actually, this is a question do you think the human brain is wired to see patterns where none exist, or do we catch glimpses of larger patterns where we're not yet equipped to understand yet?
Yeah, I think both of those things can happen. Both of those can be true, in my opinion. That's something that we talk about a lot on our show too, especially when we look at the skeptical counterpoints to some of the stories we cover, like the Flatwoods Monster, where Joe Nickel and others were like, "Well, God rest his soul, he was awesome, by the way." But when he was like, "Oh, there was meteors. Everybody saw meteors and not UFOs." The thing that Forrest and I say, it's not impossible for a UFO and a meteor to coexist at the same time in the night sky. So it's a false argument to say, oh, there was a meteor or a meteor went over the sky, therefore UFOs don't exist or didn't exist that night or weren't seen by other people that night. And for all you know, they may be interacting with or tracking a meteor, or the meteor may be a craft that's coming down that they're trying to save, service, or track, or what. There's all kinds of, so you saw meteors that night. That means that nobody else could have seen anything unusual. Or it's like Skinwalker Ranch. It's like, well, we saw something that looked like a Bigfoot, but then the same night we saw something that looked vaguely humanoid that crawled out of a tube that appeared in the middle of nowhere. There's so much weird stuff. Weird stuff can happen. There's a kitchen sink thing that seems to go on. So in terms of perception, I would say the same thing there. Yeah, I do think we're absolutely hardwired to see patterns, and that's associated with self-preservation, which if it is, why? Like, why did that evolve into us? And then the next question is, are there other things that we can't see? I say yes to that too.
Good. That's a proper answer. I got to send that actually, I have a call-in number, like I call it my factoid hotline, and people put stories in that way, and people can text it to it. So that person, whoever sent it in, they didn't give a name. I just got a random text message. He goes, for Scott. And that was a question. So whoever said that, I appreciate it. That was a perfect tie-in for that one. So actually, you've never encountered any sort of like ominous, shadowy creature, shadow man, hat man, any of those sort of stories?
I have not. I've told the story on the show. The one time I could say a shadow passed, and I used to live in an apartment. One of the first or the second place that Emily, my wife, and I rented a condo in Los Angeles in Valley Village, very close to CBS Radford Studios, where Gilligan's Island was shot. We were right across from there because at the time my wife's show Up All Night was shooting there. So we lived there and she could walk across the street, which was awesome. But that apartment was very contemporary. It was a relatively new building, and the bathroom had full glass window, frosted, of course. And I was home alone in the bathroom, on the throne, as it were. And something clearly passed down the hallway in front of that glass. But the glass is so frosted, I couldn't make it out. But it did the same. It was the same thing would be, but I did not hear footsteps, and I was home alone, and I could never explain that. The only possibility I had was that there were some skylights in the unit, and that maybe a plane flew over.
Just the right shadow, just the right time.
Yeah, but it didn't feel that way to me. But if I was going to say, oh, what's the mundane thing? If I was Kenny, I would be like, well, a plane flew over, and planes are flying over all the time in LA. It doesn't matter where you live. There's constantly planes flying and helicopters. So, but it was a little weird. It startled me. And, I finished up as fast as I could. Some things can't be rushed. And when I went out into the hallway, there was nothing there. So.
That's amazing. Yeah, see, I like the.
I don't know if it is amazing. It's not the best story.
No, man, it's the best story. But it's amazing that you still have like these things can happen to you, but you're also willing to accept that maybe something did happen. Like I have some friends of mine that I had a friend that very much had a house that I think was kind of haunted, for lack of a better term, and they just like, no, that's nothing, something that way. The previous tenants hated it, they moved out. The people that moved in afterwards also said it, and he is a guy that will never have wonder in his life. And I feel that's the amazing part in the story, that you experience something, you're willing to be like, hey, this may have been that. Also, you like took time to skylight to this. It wasn't just like, that was grandma, she's here, you took some time. That's the amazing part, is you let wonder happen. You also try to figure out what's going on, because that's what makes, I think, these stories, the experiences a little bit more, when you can be like, I took some time to think this through.
Yes.
Like, then like, for instance, I actually, the building I was talking with Kenny and I went to in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
We actually, we left, everyone else left early. We had a 4-day weekend. It was 4th of July weekend. I was hanging out with 4 people watching a movie, and 3 of us out of the 4 sitting there watching a movie, watched a shadow person lean over a door and lean back. I watched the shadow on the wall. They said they saw something coming on. But so that the house they were there wasn't, they're supposed to be all whispering. The guy who previously sold the house was like, there's something I see walking down into the hallway. We'll lean over and look at you. I got goosebumps now talking about it. But it was clearly something like, we were alone in the house, locked, the floors creak, something else.
I cannot stand things that peek around. That's what like freaked me out about communion. When it got to that point and he woke up and something was peeking around the wardrobe, I put the book down. I was like, no, thank you.
What's what there's the look behind, right? That's the story of the thing that peeks around. That's the thing of all my paranormal stuff. The peek behind, the look behind is the thing that's like just there and back. So
I'm not down with that. I don't like that.
So I did encounter, and the funny thing, so this is a huge house. This is and at the time the guy was doing a bed and breakfast. The bed I stayed in there was literally the bed from, you ever watch Interview with the Vampire? So the movie, the bed when they're in France, where they're all sitting there hanging out, all 3 of them, that bed he got it from an auction. So I could sleep in that giant large bed. After that thing on the corner, I slept on the floor with everyone else. I'm like, no, this is fine. I have cushions right here. I'll stay in this room. I don't want to go upstairs in this giant empty house, which pitch black. So as much as I think I'm, big, tough, scary looking guy, I was fine sleeping on the floor that day.
Right. I'm going to call it on this.
Yeah. And my girlfriend, who was relatively, she was very, skeptical in some of the stuff, ex-girlfriend now, but she had we were driving once, and this is the weirdest thing. We were driving through Pennsylvania up to New York, that sort of range. We're going past a farm. It's like 2 a.m, and there's one of those small little houses that they would sell pies out of. So imagine this little small box that way. There's a light behind it. And as we drive through, this is the thing, if I mentioned it to her now, she would still be creeped out by it. We saw what everyone describes as like the Hat Man, like a guy with a shape and a hat. It was a shadow. We could see inside the room. It was a shadow standing inside a lit room. So a box this way, dead center. And I can see it was a 3-dimensional shape, and we could see everything in the room, but we couldn't see. It wasn't a guy standing in front of the light. It was a guy in there as we drive past at 55 miles an hour, whatever it is, enough that we saw it and it bothered us. It was a dark thing with a little hat shape. It looked like a guy wearing like a farmer, would be that thing in there in a lit room in a pitch black thing that should be lit. It should have been like you've done filming, if you light someone around, you should see it. It was a 3-dimensional shadow of a person that we let's just keep, I'm not going to turn around for this. Let's just keep driving. So So I myself have seen things that caught me sort of off guard. So not to talk more about me there. Sorry.
No. That's cool. That's a cool story.
Yeah. He said, again, I want to believe. I'm relatively skeptical in most things, but I have randomly encountered stuff. Like I said, the peek behind thing, the look behind thing on the wall. I took hours trying to debunk it. We went and maybe it was a moth on the chandelier in the other room. Maybe it was this, maybe it was that. And I even tried to sneak, being like, let me try to walk down the hallway without making a sound. Doors were locked, nothing there. But we saw, as far as like a head and shoulder, this diagonally across the chest, lean over and lean back as fast as it moved. So a little jarring. So
that's wild.
So last thing, I have 2 more questions here. I had one. This is the great Darla from a spooky cabin in Oregon. That's what she said for this one. Send this email. Nice. Scott, you're walking alone at night and you hear your own voice calling you from the woods. What do you do?
Boy, that is going to depend on the frame of mind. The first reaction is to do whatever I need to do to depart the area. Um, but there's a part of me, like I said, if I'm feeling well rested and focused, I would try to engage and see if I could figure out what it was, as long as
I
I
would do the
didn't
same
feel
thing.
threatened by
Like
it.
curiosity is going to get me and the cat. I think
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, what is this?
Yeah.
So all my friends and family have realized
Yeah.
if I'm found dead someplace, I'm most likely was exploring or investigating, being like, yep, that's my. So
Right.
I know how it's going to go. I know it's going to go. So, final question we're going for this one. This person texted in, no name again, sorry, but love Scott's show, and anyone who else deep dives stuff. I always appreciate those brains. Please ask him this: what's something non-paranormal you've always wanted to make maybe a mini series about using that AL format? Maybe something astonishing in the scientific or artistic world instead. What is something that is non-paranormal that think you want to pull from or do a research on?
Honestly, I've already mentioned it in the show. It's kind of a super nerdy thing, but I'm very fascinated with spooky action at a distance and quantum entanglement. And I would love to see something done on that was done in a way that the average person could understand without having a degree in theoretical physics, and then try to figure out how to practically apply that to the paranormal.
Hmm.
And I wish you explain how, without them laughing at you, could you explain how this could possibly relate to what we perceive as ghosts and paranormal activity and poltergeists and that sort of thing? That would be something that would be interesting to develop. I'm very much interested in the disappearance of MH370 as well, which I've been talking about wanting to cover for a long time. The documentary came out on Netflix, I think it was a couple years ago, which was wholly unsatisfying. We're now deep into research on that. I'm actually working on it, and I'm in touch with an author who's written a book about it. That's really fascinating. I think there's a new series coming out. I feel like I saw something yesterday on Instagram saying, "Hey, we're finally talking about," like, I can't remember what the platform was, because there seems to be some kind of cover up there, and that is a story that I'm not convinced is paranormal. That said, Reddit has a couple of threads there, and they're talking about satellites that took pictures and things circling an airplane, and they're saying, "Oh, look, you can watch it."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's all this stuff going on there. I'm not on board with it at this point, but I haven't been able to really dive into it. I do know that the clip that shows the three things circling the aircraft, was it like, I think or the way it blinks out, as according to some After Effects guy, was a dead match for a pre-built filter that like is in After Effects and or is a third party thing. So it's like, well, once it starts dead matching, special effects software, the Captain Disillusion in me comes out. So I don't know. I think, which, by the way, for people that don't know, that's a really great YouTube channel about a guy who knows how all special effects are done and explains it very well to the layman. But
does anyone have the silver? He's like
yes,
half
his face is
yeah.
because he will show you how you can fake just about anything, and that was all before. Now you can just prompt AI to do it for you. So it has been covered properly. We're still planning to cover it, but it is a very, very arduous task because it is so complex. I mean, not just flying, but all of the things, and also the possible cover-ups relating to motives of pilots or ancillary people involved with it. It makes it real tricky because an airline doesn't want to own up to the possibility of a human reason being the result. But I do know just from the research that I've done that it does not make sense why the transponders were manually turned off in that aircraft. That is weird. So that story is infinitely fascinating to me, and I don't think it's necessarily paranormal, but if we do cover it, we'll cover it in that way. But that would be, I think, still nobody has done that the right way, in my opinion, yet. But something new's coming out. Maybe it's going to be amazing. I literally saw an ad for it yesterday on one of my social feeds.
Fingers crossed. Like I said, the last one was did not satiate me for my curiosity on that. So yes. So yeah, my gosh. Well, my God, thank you, Scott Philbrook. Thank you for doing this. This haunted thing. I appreciate you having audio recording on your side because it's been definitely weird on this one here too. So
and it hasn't crashed. It's working. So
yeah. My God, I'll take it. So hopefully the ghost didn't bother us on all the way there.
Yeah.
But so we have Astonishing Legends, the show. You have a network now, which have how many different shows on your network?
There's the Midnight Library on there is our oldest one. It's been around for a while, which is a great show, very different from us, but it covers esoteric knowledge with the host Miranda Merrick, who's kind of a modern day Elvira. She covers historical weird things. It's a fun show. It's bookended with a magical environment, but the stuff that she covers is factual historical information, which is through her special macabre point of view. Love that show. We also have Scared All the Time, which is co-hosted by one of the guys who was Kulari. So look for that. That's a more it's just about being petrified of things and talking about them. And it's a younger show than ours. It's it's a lot of fun to listen to. And then finally, Richard Haddam's Paranormal Bookshelf, which I mentioned earlier, which is a great show, and it is almost impossible to describe. You have to like Rich to listen to it, because it's really all about Rich, which is
a Rich show. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's what I call a benevolent narcissist. So I enjoy hearing him talk about himself, which is the best way to get through that show. But his knowledge of paranormal books is great. So yeah, Scared All the Time, the Midnight Library, Richard Haddam's Paranormal Bookshelf, and then our own new show is called the Astonishing Dead Letter Office, but that's just in our main feed. So if you subscribe to Astonishing Legends, you get Astonishing Legends, the deep dive show, plus the Dead Letter Office, which comes out weekly on Tuesdays.
It's amazing. You guys have been around. Congrats. 11 years coming up soon. Thank you for doing everything you do. You've kept me company over so many nights as I'm working here. So pass along my love to Forrest. Tell him I love it. You guys, if you're ever passing through Western New York, you need some fun ghost stories and visit something here, we got plenty of random ghost stories and bizarre stuff here. So we have some our White Lady from White Lady's Castle is the first one on Wikipedia. So
oh, nice. There you go.
Yeah. So come on down.
Okay.
Scott, thank you for joining me. And if you guys want to follow along, check them out. All the notes will be in the show notes. We'll have all the cool links to follow stuff along, and we'll put as many of the things we talked about on here as well. So Scott Philbrook, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you for having me, sir. It was my pleasure. I'll come back anytime, and I want to have you on our show as well. So,
we'll not say no to that. So,
okay.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks.
Okay, I'm just going to keep recording since you're recording right now. Yep. Do you want to do one more quick one?
Sure.
Right here.
Yeah.
I had side note. I had a factoid last week. You know, you're talking about Avi Loeb. I had no idea. So that Oumuamua.
Yeah.
Did you know that it wasn't flying through space? Do you know relatively it was actually stationary, and our solar system passed through it? Like it was set. It got pulled a little bit because of the way the stuff works.
Right. I read the recent article that suggested that the acceleration was a slingshot action, but by the same token, I know he wasn't involved in that article, but like I did not know that it was theoretically stationary. But that makes sense.
So that John Michael Gaudier, he had a person on the show who's talking about so it did move once it got close to our solar system, it started getting pulled in.
Yeah.
But Oumuamua we think it came to us, it was already at almost a stop in space. It was left like it's someone like, imagine if an alien race wanted to like, the solar system is going to pass through here. Let's leave an item for them, and then it'll eventually get picked up by the sun and it'll be pulled into its orbit. So
it's like a buoy in a way, which is kind of what Avi said.
Yes.
You know?
So when he says buoy, that's the thing that is they're like what they're talking about is like it was.
Are we?
Yeah, we're off the air. Yeah, we're done right now. So
Avi is an egomaniac. Like, man, he got mad at Forrest. He was like, he is very much. I'm the one. You know, you encounter these scientists who are just like everything I say.
Actually, one second.
Right.
I'm gonna pause this right now. I'm gonna end the stream right now, just in case. And we'll still talk. I'm actually doing another recording. I feel just in case. I want to make sure.